everyone, and welcome to This Day. Today is Friday, January 12th, and I am Bobby Higgins. I'm filling in for Michael Taylor today. He's still off on vacation this week in Hawaii. What a lucky duck. I'm so jealous. Coming up on today's show, we have Dr. Hovannessian joining us with Harvard Eye Center. It's always so informative to hear from him. And then after that, we have Cole Young with this week's Sports Corner. So great show coming your way. Let's now take a look at today's Stay Informed. United Mutual's Town Hall meeting is happening today at 2 p.m. So don't forget to go check that out. That's in the Performing Arts Center, Clubhouse 3, Room 2. The scheduled topic will focus on their master policy and earthquake insurance and preparedness, followed by a Q&A session. So don't miss this opportunity to share your comments and questions with the board members. And now taking a look outside with the weather. Today it's sunny and cool with a high of 61 and a low of 41. This trend will continue throughout the weekend and into next week. Saturday is sunny early in the day and then mostly cloudy in the afternoon. It'll be partly cloudy for the rest of the weekend, and temperatures will remain in the low 60s during the day and drop down into the 40s at night. Now looking at our sunrise and sunset, we have a picture here from Ben Givens. Thank you so much for sending that in. This is a little park near the ocean over in Corona del Mar. I haven't seen it before. I think I'll definitely go check it out. Your sunrise today is 6:56 a.m. and your sunset will be at 5:03 p.m. Stay with us because up next we have Harvard Eye Center. But first, let's take a look at today's meetings.
At Harvard Eye Associates,
we are committed to your vision care
and quality of life.
It's a commitment we don't take lightly.
Our trusted team of doctors provides specialized eye care using state-of-the-art technology.
We deliver what matters to you
and your family.
Harvard Eye Associates, the future of vision today.
Welcome back to This Day. You might have had it happen to you before, where you have eye strain resulting from using computers or iPhones or other electronics. Dr. John Hovannessian with Harvard Eye Associates is here today to talk with us just about this topic. Hi, John. So nice to see you again. Happy New Year.
How are you, Bobby? Happy New Year, and it's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you were here right before the holidays, you were teaching us about, toys that can be potentially dangerous for the eyes and have
Hope everybody had a healthy healthy holiday.
Yes.
Today we're going to talk about these things, which we've talked about before, the rectangles that run our lives and how computers can make things difficult for us.
Well, I was curious, did you buy only approved stuff for your kids?
Of course. Everything in my house is ophthalmologist approved. Yes, right.
So you followed your own advice. That's great.
Yeah. I have no control over what happens in my house, just to dispel any illusions people have about that. What's the old saying? Before I had children, I had 8 theories on parenting, and now I have 8 children and no theories.
Oh, that's cute. I like that. I like that. Yeah, the ones we always said was, our lives won't change.
Right. Famous last words.
Yes. So today's topic, eye strain resulting from prolonged, computer use or other electronic use. What type of eye strain is this? Like, what are the symptoms?
Yeah, so there's a term, computer vision syndrome, that gets thrown around, which is really not a medical term. But it sort of encompasses all the bad stuff that happens to us, all the symptoms that we get from prolonged use of screens. And typically we're talking about screens where we're doing a lot of reading, like computer screens. Nowadays, so much of it has shifted to these rectangles, the phones and tablets that we carry with us, which introduces a number of other ways to have problems. So I kind of think of the challenges that come from this that fall in 2 categories. One is dryness of the eyes. and the other is sort of muscular, skeletal sort of discomfort that comes from prolonged posture while we're doing reading.
Right, yeah, so who knew that now, we already knew just being on computers and things too long, is not great for the brain or whatever, but now there's other health problems, like your body.
That's right. That's right. And we know that probably the best thing we can do for our health is get outside and put the phone away and do things that even just walking or, gardening is actually fantastic exercise because you're up and you're down and you're doing a variety of tasks. There's fine motor, there's a little bit of strength building. And whatever you do, do it and try to do it outside if you can. And thank goodness we all pay so much to live here in Southern California. We can do it really year-round.
We pretty much have access year-round, that's right. And so why is eye strain more significant when you are using a computer or a phone as opposed to like reading on paper? So
let's talk about the dry eye aspect first.
Okay.
So dry eye is a term that's kind of confusing because it implies that your eyes just don't have enough water, and yet the symptom a lot of us feel when we're having dry eye is watering of our eyes. So we think our eyes can't be dry. Well, the truth is that dry eye really means just an imbalance in the tears that we produce. And in our normal state, we blink at a rate of 6 to 10 times per minute. And now you're going to be blinking consciously because I said it. So will our audience. But when we read or we're intensely concentrating on something, that blink rate goes way down. And so we blink a lot less. Well, the blinking across the eye is what's meant to distribute the tears smoothly and evenly, giving us a perfect optical surface to look through at the world. And so when that rate goes down, there's natural drying or imbalance, let's say, in the way tears layer on top of the eye. It's hard to make yourself blink more when you're reading, but it is easy to take breaks periodically. And taking breaks works to help the eyes kind of recover from a dry eye standpoint. And if they are dry, taking some supplemental eye drops, lubricant eye drops, can help a lot. There's a variety of different brands. You don't need to spend a fortune on artificial teardrops to have something that works for you. You should try different things. Lubricant eye drops, that's what they'll say. Sometimes it's a gel. The gels that they sell they would last a little longer, but they may blur vision a little more.
Okay.
So the trade-off is just that. Preservative-free, you can buy lubricant drops. If you're going to use them more than about 4 times a day, it probably makes sense to get preservative-free because the preservatives can be a little irritating after a while. But you don't need to necessarily buy preservative-free if you're just using them occasionally.
Okay.
They're less expensive than the preservative-free, the standard ones. I also have a picture of a heated mask. Heated mask is something that helps to supplement your own tear production if your eyes tend to be dry.
Oh, really?
And this is true if they're dry under any circumstance, not just when you're on the computer for a prolonged time. So yeah, heated masks, they don't need to be hot, just warm temperature, like baby bath warm, and they rest on the eyes and they stimulate the oil production in the eyelids that really helps the eyes to feel better. So a heated mask is a terrific thing. One, we don't like to recommend brands too much, but Bruder, B-R-U-D-E-R, is one that's online. You can buy for $10 or $15 on Amazon, and it's a real good one that's reliable, and we use those.
So now, would you, if you're noticing you're having dry eye as you're working on your computer, say, would that be the indication to, hey, maybe go take a break and put the mask on? Or do you do masks like maybe every night when you go to bed, just as
either way, find out what works for you. For a lot of people, putting the mask on before they start at the computer for 5 minutes is a good way to provide a good, robust ocular surface, lubrication, so that you'll have longer stamina reading on the computer. Because what most people will say is, hey, I start and I'm fine, but after about an hour or two, boy, my eyes bother me and I just can't see the screen well, and and my eyes feel tired. So that's kind of the dry eye part of things. The other side is sort of the muscular skeletal positioning of ourselves. Our posture during these activities where we're in a prolonged state of doing one thing is really quite important, isn't it?
Yes.
And it used to be we were just on desktop computers where we were at a desk, and I see people committing all kinds of postural sins when they do this with their legs crossed and leaning forward,
and you're so focused you don't even realize you're doing that.
And you're causing yourself great strain.
My husband's had major hip pain from having his leg, however, when he's often editing at the computer. Propping
up and just doing what seems comfortable, but in fact is causing problems, right? So, here's a graphic that kind of shows some and there's lots of good stuff on the internet about this. If you're sitting, that computer screen should be just a little bit below eye level. That one is actually a little lower than I would recommend putting it, because you don't want your head leaning forward. Your head weighs about 12 pounds, and if you're leaning forward to see, your neck muscles here are holding up 12 pounds, but they're really at a mechanical disadvantage. So they're lifting a lot more than 12 pounds for a long time as they're holding your head up. So you're going to have knots and strain. And so, the best first way is to have good posture. If you're standing, as you can see here, the arms are level, the elbows are at the side, the eyes are looking more or less straight ahead. The weight is right over we're not leaning in any direction. The weight is right over the feet, and that's a position that you can sustain for a period of time. But even then, with good posture, you need to take breaks, because your body's meant to move. It's meant to move.
Right.
And so
what is the recommendation? Like every 2 hours, or?
It's going to be different for everybody, but one good rule to follow is the 20-20-20 rule. This is one you've heard me say before for kids trying to prevent progressive nearsightedness. The 20-20 rule is every 20 minutes, take at least 20 seconds looking 20 feet away. All right, so looking 20 feet away is not so important, but during those 20 seconds, at least get up and move around and take a break. And for you, it may be more than 20 seconds. It may take a minute, minute and a half. That seems like a lot, and it is, but look, if it allows you to work that much longer, that much more efficiently, that much without thinking about how you feel, it's worth it, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Simple things we do can often make a big difference.
And this graphic here showed like at the computer, but it's even more important when you're on your phone, because what are you doing when you're on you're in a totally different...
Almost by definition, we've got our head hanging forward, right? We're looking down at this thing, and that causes us to, to again put strain on the muscles in the back of the neck. Our arm that's holding up this little thing, if it's an iPad, it's different forces. There's almost too many variables to describe them all, but have good posture. If you have a stand, you can put a phone in if you're reading on it. You can do that, or do it where your arm is supported so you're not holding it up. Do it in a way that you can feel comfortable with it for a prolonged period of time. Just putting some thought process behind our posture is really the rule number one in preventing those musculoskeletal sort of
Definitely makes sense. It's really funny, because as I was researching this a little bit yesterday, and I'm at my computer, and I'm like...
There you are.
I'm kind of like...
breaking all the rules.
I'm like, wow, I'm not doing this posture thing at all, am I? Yeah. One last thing I wanted to ask about was, it said computer glasses, because when you're at the computer, like I know I need glasses for up close. Yeah. I'm getting closer because of that.
Great point.
So I guess there's computer glasses
There
too.
are, and if you spend prolonged time at a computer where it's at arm's length, it is a great investment to have a pair of glasses that are focused at arm's length. Most reading glasses are meant for about 30 centimeters or even less, and then you're doing this in order to keep it in good focus, leaning in, which is terrible for your back. You don't need to spend a fortune for this. If you wear normally just drugstore reading glasses, and let's say you wear a 2 to do this, it's about half that number for arm's length. So it would be a +1 for arm's length, or if you wear a 250, about 125 for arm's length. Try that, see how that works for you, and that's a good rule of thumb to follow if you're buying just over-the-counter reading glasses. And of course, if you have astigmatism, if you have prescription glasses, those can be made precisely to get you, and a good suggestion for your eye doctor, when you go see your eye doctor, tell the doctor, hey, I measured my eyes at my computer, and my computer monitor is exactly this far from my eyes when I'm reading. And that will give the doctor kind of exactly what they need to know to give the right prescription for you.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here and giving us all this information.
It's a pleasure seeing you. Happy New Year. Yes. It's great to be here, and hopefully this helps our viewers a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. Don't change that channel, because we'll be back with more of This Day right after this.
Hi, I'm Dan McEachran. 35 years ago, I was lucky enough to get my start in Laguna Woods. First, building patio rooms, then kitchens. Our cabinets, all built locally in Irvine. It all began with patio rooms, like this Majorca model, which we made into a complete room. I'll pull permits. We'll take care of everything. Give me a call. We'll do a nice job for you.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of Sports Corner. I'm Cole Young, and in terms of football, this was one of the most important weeks of the year. Starting with college football, the national championship was on Monday night, and the University of Michigan Wolverines are national champions for the first time since 1997. After 9 seasons coaching his alma mater and in his 3rd consecutive playoff appearance, head coach Jim Harbaugh finally delivered the title so many expected when he took over a struggling powerhouse program back in 2015. Michigan entered this game as the favorites, but University of Washington was known for its high-powered passing game that could put up big points. Michigan running back Donovan Edwards scored 2 rushing touchdowns in rapid succession as Michigan ran for 229 yards in the first quarter alone. Michael Penix Jr. threw his only touchdown of the game with 42 seconds remaining in the first half, which brought the Huskies within 7 of Michigan. The score sat at 17-10 at halftime, but Michigan, literally and figuratively, ran away with the game in the second half. Blake Horn would rush for 2 second-half touchdowns for Michigan, and with Washington's Penix throwing 2 second-half interceptions, the Wolverines became the college football national champions, winning 34-13. Michigan completed their season with a perfect 15-0 record. The world now waits patiently to see where Jim Harbaugh will be coaching next season, whether that's back at Michigan in the pros or some other unknown third option. College football is officially over, and the NFL is reaching its conclusion. Last week was the final week of the NFL regular season, and some major implications were in play. Several teams were fighting to secure their spot in the playoffs, while some teams already had a spot in the postseason but were looking to improve their seeding. Starting in the AFC on Saturday, the Indianapolis Colts and Houston Texans were squaring off for the AFC South division title as well as a spot in the playoffs. Both of these teams came as a huge surprise to almost everyone, as most believed they both would be towards the bottom of the league this season. Rookie sensation quarterback CJ Stroud had a record-breaking season as he finished with 4,108 passing yards, the 3rd most for any rookie in NFL history, as well as 23 touchdowns with just 5 interceptions. He started the game off with a bang as Stroud launched a 75-yard touchdown pass to Nico Collins on the Texans' first play from scrimmage. The Colts didn't roll over quietly, though, as they still had a chance to win the game. But a dropped pass by the Colts on 4th and 1 with 1 minute remaining in the 4th quarter would seal the victory for Houston. The Jacksonville Jaguars also found themselves in a win-and-in situation, facing off with the division rival Titans. The Titans basically dominated the Jaguars all day, but Jacksonville made it close at the end and ended up losing, and Jacksonville's loss meant that the Steelers and Bills had clinched the final 2 playoff spots. However, the Bills still wanted to get a win over the Dolphins on Sunday night to secure the AFC East division title as well as the number 2 seed. In a back-and-forth game that was an all-time classic, the Bills came out on top of the Dolphins and did indeed clinch the division and the number 2 team in the AFC playoffs. The AFC playoffs are officially set, with the Ravens at number 1, number 2 being the Bills, the Chiefs taking the 3rd spot, the Texans sneaking in at number 4, the Browns at 5, and finally, the Dolphins and Steelers coming in at 6 and 7, respectively. As the clear number 1 team, the Baltimore Ravens will have a first-round bye, and their divisional round opponent will be determined in the wildcard round this weekend. With that said, here's the AFC wildcard schedule for this weekend. On Saturday, the playoffs kick off with the matchup of 2 of the most improbable playoff teams, the Browns and the Texans. The Browns have been on fire behind veteran quarterback Joe Flacco, as well as the most dominant defense in recent history. As I said before, the Texans have an incredibly high-powered offense with quarterback CJ Stroud and his offensive weapons in Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, Devin Singletary, and more. Even though they'll be on the road, the Browns are just slightly favored in this game. This will absolutely be a fun game to watch, but I think the Browns will hold off the Texans with their unstoppable defense. This game kicks off at 1:30 p.m. on NBC this Saturday. Following that game, we'll get an electric rematch of the Dolphins and Chiefs in a Tyreek Hill revenge game. The Chiefs narrowly outlasted the Dolphins earlier this season, but in the playoffs, anything can happen. The Chiefs have not been, well, the Chiefs we all know this season, as they have struggled enormously on offense. Patrick Mahomes has still played like himself, but his offensive weapons are almost non-existent. Travis Kelce has shown his age this season, but he still is always a massive factor in the offense, especially in the red zone. He'll be a key factor to watch in this game. The Chiefs have mainly been carried by their defense this season, but they will be put to the test against the fast and skilled Dolphins. The Dolphins' speed on offense has been their bread and butter all season, with teams struggling to contain Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, and more. Their explosive offense has been full of big plays and high scoring, but injuries and opponents' defensive adjustments have slowed them down as of late. The determining factors in this game will be the Chiefs' ability to score on offense, as well as the possible -5-degree weather in Kansas City. The Dolphins are 0-10 in their last 10 games when the temperature dipped below 40 degrees, and this game should be in the negatives. I do think the Dolphins will overcome and come out on top of this game, however. This game will be streaming exclusively on Peacock this Saturday at 5 p.m. Lastly, in the AFC, the last two teams to make the playoffs, the Bills and Steelers, will kick off the Sunday slate at 10 a.m. on CBS. The Bills have turned the season around entirely and have been on a roll lately, but they still aren't playing to their full potential. Josh Allen has made some questionable throws in most games this season, and star wide receiver Stephon Diggs has been virtually non-existent for the past few months. With that said, Buffalo continues to find ways to win. Their opponent for the wild card, Pittsburgh Steelers, have had a tumultuous season to say the least, but with head coach Mike Tomlin, have yet again made the playoffs. Their offense is decent when it's at its best, but their defense has been able to hold teams to minimal points and will their team to a win. This game will really come down to the Bills' ability to put points up on the board against this Steelers defense, but I think Buffalo will earn a win at home in another cold climate game. Over in the NFC, not many of the games this past weekend had huge implications. The Buccaneers already had a seat in the playoffs, but needed a win over the Panthers to win the NFC South and earn a better spot in the matchup. Even though it was just 9-0, they were able to secure a win, although it wasn't pretty. There was one spot left that was up for grabs, and the Packers, Seahawks, and Saints all were hoping they would be the one to earn their last second spot. The Packers continued their historic dominance over the Bears, earning a win which secured their spot in the playoffs. The Packers joined the number 1 49ers, number 2 Cowboys, the 3rd seed Lions, number 4 Buccaneers, 5 seed Eagles, and the Rams at the 6th spot. Just like the Ravens, the 49ers have a first-round bye, meaning the Packers will kick off the NFC wildcard this weekend with a matchup against their former head coach Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys. The Packers have really surprised a lot of people this year, myself included, and they do have a talented offense with quarterback Jordan Love. His young receivers like Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and more have proven valuable targets, and their defense has been relatively solid this season. However, the Cowboys have an absolutely loaded defense and an offense that has the ability to score 40-plus points week in and week out. Dak Prescott led the NFL with 36 passing touchdowns this season, and I'm certain that he will throw for at least 2 this weekend. The Cowboys are notorious for choking in the playoffs, but I'm fairly confident it won't happen this week. This game between the Packers and the Cowboys kicks off at 1:30 p.m. this Sunday on Fox. Following that is the revenge game everyone's been waiting for. In 2021, the Rams and Lions had a quarterback swap trade. Matthew Stafford went to the LA Rams, and Jared Goff headed to the Detroit Lions. Stafford went on to lead the Rams to a Super Bowl victory that season, and Goff has been part of a Lions team that's turned an entire franchise around and turned them into a Super Bowl caliber team. Now, these two teams will face off in Detroit in the wildcard playoffs. Both of these teams have incredible offenses, but middle-of-the-road defenses, so I think this will be a back-and-forth, high-scoring affair. The Lions' offense will flow through their weapons like Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, while the Rams will rely heavily on Kyren Williams and the record-breaking rookie Puka Nacua. I expect the Lions to pick up a win at home, and this game kicks off at 5 p.m. on Sunday. The final game of the Super Wildcard weekend is an interesting one. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles on Monday night at 5:15 p.m. After a 10-1 start, the Eagles have lost 5 of their last 6 games and look to be struggling immensely. Their defense has allowed boatloads of points, while their offense has hit a massive roadblock that they can't seem to overcome. This matchup will definitely be an opportunity to right the ship, and with the top-ranked offensive line and weapons like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith at receiver, it's time for Jalen Hurts to get back to his MVP form. The Bucs have been another surprising team this season, as everyone expected this to be a rebuilding year for them. Baker Mayfield has led this offense to the playoffs, and receiver Mike Evans had his 10th straight 1,000-yard season. Their defense has some question marks, but if Mayfield and the offense are clicking, this team can be dangerous. I'm going to make a bold prediction and say that the Bucs will come out of Philly with a win on Monday night. I'm not super confident in this one, but willing to take the risk. In August, I made my playoff predictions, and I predicted that the Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, Jaguars, Dolphins, Jets, Ravens, Vikings, Eagles, 49ers, Panthers, Giants, Seahawks, and Lions would be the 14 teams in the playoffs. In my defense, if Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, and Daniel Jones didn't sustain season-ending injuries, we would have a very different conversation right now. But the Panthers, well, I have no excuse for picking them. Anyway, I got 7 out of 14 teams right. Not great, not terrible. But for my regular season picks, I went 4-0 last week, bringing me to 37-19 on the season, which is about 66% win rate. Not too shabby. My lifetime record with my picks is 76, 31-1, which is a little over 70%. That's gonna do it for this week's episode of Sports Corner. Enjoy this beautiful Super Wildcard weekend. I know I will. Come right back next Friday for all the news, updates, highlights, and more surrounding the NFL playoffs and more major stories from around the sports world. I'm Cole Young. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.
At Renewed Ketamine Infusion, Dr. Justin Yannick and Dr. Tanya Dahl are board-certified physicians with nearly a decade of experience in ketamine therapy who can help those who haven't found success with other treatments or wish to avoid daily medications. Whether you're struggling with depression, PTSD, anxiety, or chronic pain conditions, our private spa-like clinic focuses on creating the perfect setting for your ketamine treatment. Call us today to schedule your free physician consultation to determine if ketamine therapy is recommended for you.
Welcome back to This Day. Let's take a look at the Friday movie presentation here on Village Television. Today's movie is Twin Sisters. This is being brought to you by Pacific Financial Planners, and there are subtitles on the 2 p.m. showing. This movie is about twin sisters who are raised separately after their parents dies. One goes to live with rich relatives in the Netherlands, while the other stays in Germany, enduring poverty on the farm of her stoic uncle. As adults, they long to reunite, but the outbreak of World War II, as well as growing social differences between them, risk keeping the two sisters permanently divided, especially when one marries a Nazi officer. And now let's move to announcements. We got more movies because coming up is Monday Movies at the Pack. This is definitely a fan favorite. Coming up this Monday, January 15th, is the movie Barbie. Showtimes are now at 2 p.m. and also at 7 p.m. There's no ticket required, so you can choose which showing you would like to go to. And now let's take a look at the weather. Looking outside, today is sunny and cool with a high of 61 and a low of 41. The trend will continue through the weekend. Saturday is sunny early in the day and then mostly cloudy in the afternoon. It'll be partly cloudy for the rest of the weekend and into next week. Temperatures will remain in the low 60s during the day and drop down into the 40s at night. So definitely dress in layers. Looking ahead tomorrow on this day, the baby boomers are here once again, and they have some fun events coming up that you definitely don't want to miss. That's it for us here at This Day. You can catch us again at 12:30 and 5 p.m. or check us out anytime you like, 24/7 on Village Television's YouTube channel. For This Day, I'm Bobby Higgins. Have a great day, everyone.